they're like twins being birthed from the saucer vagina. Like it was beautiful. Yeah.
Captain's Pod, Stardate 81, 88, 23.1. Welcome aboard the Starship's Enterprise, and thank you for joining us as we take a brief shore leave from the world of CinemaSins to explore the universe of Star Trek. I'm your Captain Ian Whittington, and with me as always, she could break into song at any moment. It's Ambassador Deneé.
Oh, that wasn't really a song. That was more like a siren. I apologize.
Yep. And he could break at any moment. It's Aaron Dicer.
What is that? Was that an age comment? What was that? I can break at any moment?
No, I went for a mental stability thing rather than an age.
That's much better. Thank you. I feel much better now.
You think that Aaron could break before me? That's amazing.
Hey, his ability to break at any moment does not preclude you also breaking at any moment, too. Both things can happen. I mean, physically, mentally, how are you both doing now?
I'll break the show at any moment.
You did that with your first Star Wars reference.
Look, I'm on a Star Wars show. I do Star Wars references. I don't know what the problem is.
Well, hello, everybody.
Hello.
And hello to all of the new people as well that have joined us since Riker's Beardgate from the Star Trek.
That was received so well. I'm so happy.
So for those of you that don't know, we also write for CinemaSins, and we recently released Everything Wrong with Star Trek Insurrection, which has always bugged me personally because Riker shaved his beard off. So we did the decent thing and we put the beard back on. And I think we might do an episode about Insurrection at some point. If you want to join me for that, Ambassador
there's much
Deneé.
to talk about. We could definitely do a deep dive into that one. Yeah, I like that you have a chance as a longtime Star Trek fan to send something that's bothered you. Yeah, vent. Like have a little outlet space.
It's so weird. Babyface Riker is so weird.
But what was the best of that is that you gave the idea to our fantastic editing team, and Mr. Lassiter just fucking killed it.
Yeah, he nailed it. I didn't ask for variations.
No.
He decided to do that.
We did not know that he was going to give variations of beard. And as I watched that edit for the first time, I don't know when I've laughed that hard in recent history. I had tears, I was hurting, and then it would come up again and it would be a new beard. And I just it's the first time in my job where I don't know what Jeremy was saying because I don't know what we were singing. I wasn't paying attention to any of that stuff. All of a sudden, I'm just laughing at this beard.
Because the narrator doesn't address it.
It just moves on totally normal.
Mr. Lassiter is this kindly old gentleman down the street that does our editing.
Yes.
In case you were wondering who the Mr. Lassiter is.
97, but he's an editing.
Still doing great editing. It can draw a mean beard. So
yeah.
He sure can.
His son did some stuff with Pixar.
No relation.
Nope. Okay, with that, before we get into the finale of Strange New World Season 2, let's do some emails. Okay, hailing frequencies open, everyone. It's time for us to read your emails from Discord, Twitter, and, email. First up...
email.
We have a correction. This came from multiple people in the Discord. I did have an email about it. I apologize for misattributing a bit of knowledge and a viewpoint from George Lucas onto Gene Roddenberry.
What franchise did you think was Star Trek?
Star Wars?
Ian, what franchise was it?
Yep. Mm-hmm. I will take all the beatings.
Say the words. Say the words, Ian.
I assume
I am
everything
so
is Star Trek. But this thing was Star Wars.
Franchise?
Star Wars.
Okay, there we go.
But what happened? What did you do? What did you say?
So I think, I'm not too sure. It's last week I think it's the week before last because we've recorded these a bit strangely. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said that Marina Sirtis or somebody from the original series, possibly the original Chapel, Majel Barrett, or a guest star, said can I not wear a bra with this outfit? And Gene Roddenberry said, well, don't be silly. They don't have bras in space and in the future because you don't need them. It was actually George Lucas that said that, and it was Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, it was the Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
holy shit.
Yep.
I don't remember you saying that. Was that on the episode I wasn't
think
here
so.
for?
I think it was
No, no,
I think it was episode 8.
Because I would have gone ham on that.
No, she was not
as
here
a
when we had
woman
the.
who-
Yeah, we had not had the broad
No,
conversation with Deneé in the.
I
the
think
conversation.
she was
Okay.
in the episode.
I just want to say, whether I was here or not, I obviously missed it. And I'm going to take this opportunity to say, free the titties.
Right? Space is great. Because it's a good thing, that's why I attributed it to Gene Roddenberry.
I can't imagine she was here and didn't say that. She I know very well that is how she feels.
I
and
am
so like
Just stay
almost certain
tuned,
she was
beloved
there.
listener, because you will correct us in the next email.
Yes.
Oh, you will.
And then
We'll
we
have
will
a correction
the
next
conversation
time.
will continue.
You will all know way better than any of us. But yes, George Lucas, there were immortal words from him to Carrie Fisher. I apologize. I was wrong.
Oh, shit.
And Dicer was even more wrong for not realizing in the moment, considering
that's
you're
right.
the
It
Star
really
Wars
all
fan.
comes back to me
Yeah.
being wrong if it can.
My 6-year-old pulls that shit, Ian. My 6-year-old
Well,
blames
Dad
me for
did
things
it.
that she does. Yeah.
You made me do it. You pushed the house. What? In all seriousness, guys, since we've got this new little email segment, we have been overwhelmed with emails, so we're not going to be able to get to all of them this week. But no email shall go unread or unanswered. You just may have to wait until 2025 to hear it, but keep them coming. They are beautiful. We do have. I'm going to start with another little quick correction because I love the corrections. So this was actually a comment on YouTube from Gerard Bear. Apologies if I said that wrong. It's quite simply, wouldn't Dr. Crusher be counted as a ginger? Because a couple of weeks ago, one of the predictions was that there'll be a redhead in the episode, and I was like, oh my god, there's no redheads in Star Trek, other than Crusher, who is one of my favorite characters. So yeah,
Nicely done.
this is incredible. I'm just going to give in my Star Trek card. I don't think I can really continue. This isn't salvageable. Okay, we've got a cool Twitter message from Cameron Powers. Best name ever. So this was regarding Uhura in Subspace Rhapsody reading mail. And we were like, well,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
she admitted that I could, but I won't. And talking about like the ethics of that.
Yep.
So Cameron was part of the Navy and said regarding Uhura being able to read correspondence, I can't say Starfleet has the same rules, but as a civil servant job, US Navy sailors' mail is subject to review and inspection by postal clerk petty officers. It's an anti-spying thing to make sure that they're not getting coded messages or whatnot. And it's not unreasonable to think that Starfleet, the Space Navy, would have a similar thing as well. So maybe the sin is that Uhura should be reading the mail and isn't.
Well, I think the sin would, first of all, we would not do enough research to know that. So the sin will
Which is why I thank you, Cameron, for messaging us.
because we don't care. No,
We do
but
care.
We care.
We don't. The idea that there is somebody in Starfleet who does that, I would think comes with like a specific job in specific rules and regulations to that. Not just I'm sitting here and you said something about mail and it's like, oh, I would never do that. Insinuating that you could, like.
It was the casual
I think it
nature.
stands.
Okay, fair enough.
Also, in the future, there's computers. You know that they're just scanning that shit.
Yeah, the computer. Actually, no, that's more scary. The computer knows all of my mail.
Well, yeah. The computer knows all of your mail now.
No, that's fair. The computer does know all of my mail. Amazing. It knows that I'm a terrible Star Trek fan. This email is another lesson in the level of research that we don't get to do, which is really, really fun. This is an email from Joel Fishbane. Hello, Joel.
Hi, Joel.
Just because you were wondering about this during your musings on Subspace Rhapsody, get it? Musings?
Same root
Okay.
word.
Yep.
Comes from the same place.
The song that Uhura sends out on the teaser is Anything Goes, from the Cole Porter musical of the same
Correct.
time. It first came out in 1934 and is definitely a classic of the American songbook. Here's the interesting bit. It should be noted that the musicals referenced in the episode largely come from the Rodgers and Hammerstein era and beyond, which began in the 1940s. Correct, Aaron? Does that sound right?
I mean, yes, in that they sound like the Rodgers and Hammerstein type songs, but that's kind of informed musicals since then. So, yeah.
This is when characters really began singing about their emotions, and you had things like
Right.
the big Broadway finale, Anything Goes, for example. It's an example of the 1930s era when a show was written around the songs, and the songs didn't really advance the plot or the characters in a significant way. So technically, it's a bit of a sin that a song from the 1930s led everyone performing more modern musicals. They should have sent out something from Oklahoma, The Sound of Music, or something by Stephen Sondheim. And now that I've said this, you may insert Homer Simpson screaming nerd at your leisure. Nerd! Musical nerd!
I don't believe he asked any of us to shout nerd. I believe he said to insert Homer Simpson. So
Okay, do that now.
Oh,
And
I can do that now. I love that. Does that follow? So the idea that the
I don't think it's that cut and dry, but yes.
The song that she sent out shouldn't have created the musical universe that we saw, in theory.
It's not that black and white. Like, musicals have always had, like, there have been elements of big song finales in musicals before Rodgers and Hammerstein. You know what I mean? Like, the evolution of
there's never
musical
one
entertainment.
thing that starts stuff.
And like, Singing in the Rain is kind of more of an old school musical. The songs in Singing in the Rain weren't written for the plot. They are songs that existed before that plot was ever written. So, so it's not like there's a date and time when, it all changed and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that's a fair thing to think about for sure.
And I wonder if we'd have had like more upbeat stuff, like from like something from Sondheim. A Star Trek Sondheim episode could be my favorite thing in the world.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. So would the Lin-Manuel version of Star Trek would be amazing, right? Like, so the problem becomes the further you go, the more specific you go, and the harder it gets to do. Like, if you're going for
it's not a
Lin-Manuel
musical,
or
it's just a
Sondheim
Lin-Manuel episode.
They were just going for musical, and I think they hit musical. So
which is why I didn't like the middle part. Love the beginning and end.
I really wonder if the answer was that they just did multiple songs, because I think that episode got confusing for me because of what they uploaded. They uploaded the one, and then it turned into how everybody is affected by music, and so it makes us think that every song is going to be related to that original one. So if they would have just shifted the plot a bit and had them upload a library of music or something like that, like, so that we had something to pull from, we wouldn't have to be thinking so hard about it.
The frequency they were stuck in was a musical. The frequency the Klingons were stuck in was batshit insane. Because I still don't understand how the Klingons ended up with that K-pop thing based on...
I like that you've moved on to K-pop from dubstep.
The reason I like K-pop is because it's Klingon pop. Like,
right.
It just works better than
works no matter what.
Dubstep.
Yeah.
Like, it's dubsteppy. I'm so old. Right, well, keep your emails coming. CaptainsPod at cinemasins.com and Twitter CS, I think? What is it? CaptainsPod CS? CaptainsPod CS. Somehow CaptainsPod, the Twitter handle, was taken. So it's CaptainsPod CS on Twitter. Okay, this week it's time for the finale of Season 2, everybody. How are we feeling going into the last episode?
I'm gonna miss my Friday time with you guys. No, I'm gonna miss it. The show itself, I'm kind of ready for this season to be over. I'm not excited for the finale because I don't generally believe it will do the things that I'm excited about. Like, I feel like it's going to want to carry some things over, and it's going to be about, stuff that we're going to have to resolve next season. And I could be wrong, but that tends to be how finales are. So, I'm not pumped about the finale. But I'm ready to move on to season 3. If we ever get a season 3.
No, we're going to get it. Ambassador, how do you feel about the finale?
I don't trust this show like I did season 1.
Sucks, doesn't it? I know what you mean.
At this point in season 1, I was sad. I was bummed. I was not wanting it to end. I wanted this to be a show that went like 32 episodes or something crazy. I wanted this to be something I could go to every week for a while. And this season, I feel like I was in a uncomfortable conversation between a whole bunch of adults arguing about what they wanted to do with the show. And I've been pulled in a lot of different directions every episode.
Romance seemed to be the only thing everybody could agree on. Well, we'll just have a lot of romance.
I continue to be flummoxed by how out of the norm our view on this is. People love this season of the show. Like, the
Do
comments
they?
on... Yes. Like, the comments on Twitter, the comments from other Star Trek, like... people are they're not full of grace for this show, because that would indicate they didn't like it but still are okay with it. No, they've loved it. Like I've read a couple articles, and I'm just reading the articles going, what show was I watching? Like it's one of those weird things that just happens sometimes where you're just out of sync with, the rest of fandom.
I think that they're doing something I'm going to have a better / clearer view on in hindsight after they release some more content, because I think that this season is a step towards what they're doing next. It really feels like the introduction of Kirk and the introduction of relationship, but it didn't do the adventuring things that I was so happy with the first season. And so I am sadly excited for this to be done, but also love the characters. And that's not going to go away. Season 1 was so special for me that that's not something that's going to be tainted by season 2. It's mostly just like, oh, my love of these characters and what they were doing. They're doing something different with, which happens with content all the time. Let me be clear. This is not a shit show. This is not a show that's like, this is trash. It is just not what I was hoping for, because I loved season 1 so much, and I just wanted to go back and dip my toe into that again.
Yeah, it's interesting how few strange planets we've been to, how much we've had some great plots. Like even the Klingon one I didn't like too much was still an interesting thing, but it just got buried in a lot of melodrama. But then I'm kind of thinking about TOS as well. There's a lot of similarities between this and the original series, which had a lot of love underlines. Now, these were like usually single episode things where Kirk falls in love with somebody, Spock falls in love with somebody, Scotty falls in love with somebody. Like they would have basically a romance of the week in every episode. And I wonder if this is like echoing some of that as well. TNG did it too, but a lot less. So the more I'm kind of analyzing it, is that maybe there is a massive amount of nostalgia to this, where space travel was romanticized, and we definitely pulled away from that with Lower Decks, Discovery. Discovery doesn't really do love stories at all. There's none of that in there. Voyager was very, very light on it. Deep Space Nine had a little bit. So I just wonder if this is calling... The fact that this is calling back to TOS and TNG is what people might be unconsciously latching onto. But having said that, this episode is called Hegemony. Predictions. Let's have one general prediction, one oddly specific prediction for what happens in the finale, Ambassador.
Okay, so this is clearly about hedges, which has to do with,
Yes, Hegemony is Hedges getting married.
Thank you, Ian. Now I know the truth. I don't fucking know what's going to happen anymore. I had a great idea. I was going to share it with you. Go on.
Marital shrubbery. Commodore Dicer, give us one general prediction, one oddly specific prediction.
Well, I believe the actual word hegemony, hegemony has to do with some sort of governing, I believe, like the idea of like one country dominating, governing another country kind of idea. So I'm going to make my general prediction that Captain Pike has to be subservient to another entity or person, or is not in the control of his ship that he wants to be. That's my general prediction based on the title. My specific prediction is that there will be some sort of candy bar involved.
Any particular brand? I want to get really specific.
No. It's candy bar's not specific enough.
It wouldn't it be incredible if it was like a Twix and you said Snickers?
That would be amazing.
Sorry, you don't get it.
I would assume it would be some sort of candy bar we've never heard of from, some other planet or, something. Somebody's having a snack.
Amazing. Alien candy. I love it. Well, with that, let's head over to the holodeck to watch the finale of Strange New Worlds. We will see you in 10 forward, 3 to be man. Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab a drink from the replicator and share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched together. Most important question first. What would you like, Ambassador?
I would like crystallized gore and tears, please.
Commodore, what would you like?
I would like some of that delicious looking, like half melted Jolly Ranchers that were hanging from the ceiling in this ship.
Oh yeah. What are they called? Gushers?
Yeah, Gushers.
Yeah.
I love Gushers.
Where you kind of squeeze them and then it goops out.
Yeah, those look delicious.
The strawberry kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do not like American candy, and I know exactly why you mentioned that now, Aaron. I just got that. We'll get onto that in a second. I would like, I don't know, I think I'd like the season finale from Series 3 of TNG. I think that's what I would like from the Replicator.
You can't eat that.
I
or
can.
drink it.
Watch me.
Okay.
Watch me eat the best of both worlds, part 1. I will eat that shit. Ambassador, give us a synopsis.
Holy fuck! So much is happening. This is the episode we've been waiting for all season. And it's done.
Except it's not.
Right. Except it's not. In today's to be continued finale episode, we have the most action-packed excitement maybe that we've seen the entire season. And right at the crescendo, when is the show coming back, by the way?
I mean,
how
the
long
plan,
will it be?
The plan was next year, but with the writers' strike,
Right.
unfriggin' likely. Like, we're looking
And actor
2025.
strike. Don't forget the
and
actors are striking
apologies.
too.
Yeah, actors and writers. Assuming, like, genuinely, assuming anyone survives, because Hollywood just wants to starve them into defeat. 2025, 2026, it ain't going to be next year.
So I think the best way to succinctly talk about this episode is that none of it matters. Because we don't know. This is like reading a book that has an ending where it's like you pick your own adventure in your imagination and you get to decide what happens. That's the experience of this one. This entire episode builds into a choose your own adventure because we don't know when we're actually going to see what happens. But don't worry, nobody dies.
Well, they gave us two things, plot, devices, plot movements that they did resolve. So like this episode does have a couple of resolutions. It just doesn't have an overall resolution, which is fine.
I don't actually have a problem
No.
with that.
I mean, I don't like cliffhangers to begin with, but if you're going to do one, at least the story here gives us, the search for Spock's love interest and and the saving the Gorn infested Pike's love interest.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the love interests.
I'm amazed
Yeah.
Kirk didn't turn up
Yeah.
also infected by the Gorn. Surprise!
I was waiting for James Tiberius to be forced into this episode somehow, but
Turns
it
out
did
he
not
was a
happen.
Gorn all along.
I guess if you want me to do an actual synopsis, it would be in today's episode, the Gorn finally show up again. We learn that they can wear suits in space, and we learn more about how they are strategic and tactical. Why do we learn about that? Because, oh no, our people are on a planet that they shouldn't be on, but they are on, I guess. I'm not entirely sure about that part.
They should be on it. That is the Gorn being dicks.
In this episode, the captain breaks protocol to save his love interest. He really likes her a whole bunch and knows he's going to die soon. And there's not very many people that can stand him, apparently, which is surprising because he's great. In today's episode, there's a 1 in a million chance of Spock finding Chapel, but he does anyway. In today's episode, Pike's girl gets impregnated.
Oh, I mean, yes,
I'm sorry.
but
That was bad.
I
That was
hate
bad.
that. I hate that.
Yeah, this is an adventure where we're going to an alien planet that's human aliens or humalians, as you said in recently, that I thought was clever.
Wait, no, I think these were actual humans.
I thought they were were
No,
they?
I think these were humans that chose to live for some reason in the mid 20th century. That was their
yes.
choice. We live in the 2300s, but I'm going
Our
to
choice
choose
is to just conveniently live in the most nostalgic period of American history possible.
Yeah.
Let's ignore all of the problems that were happening in the 50s and 60s and just remember the diners.
Yeah,
Exactly.
this is the episode where the budget was like at max. We've got cool costumes. We've got amazing space CGI happening. We've got spacewalks. We've got battles. We've got multiple kinds of battles. We've got alien CGI. We've got new characters / beloved characters showing up. This episode has everything. Everything is happening in this episode. There's mysteries to solve. There's problems to solve. There's clever, ingenious ways that the crew is, tackling things without going over lines, etc. There's a lot. There's a lot to talk about in this episode. But yeah, it does end very promptly.
Before we do, overall thoughts and feelings, as if I need to ask, Commodore Dicer.
Interesting. So what am I going to say, Derpian?
I don't. Oh, hey, when did that happen? Why does it say Dirt Plan?
So podcast listeners, when we go live, we have like little name tags. Mine says Ambassador Deneé. Aaron's says Commodicer, and usually Ian says Captain, but Aaron changed it to Derpian, and the captain
he
didn't
doesn't
notice
even
it.
know how long it's been that way.
I don't. It could be a week. It could be 7 hours. We've been live for a long time now. I predict that you did not enjoy this episode, Aaron.
I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. It may be my favorite episode of the season after the fun of the crossover episode.
All right, incredible. Suddenly, my interest in talking to you about this just went through the roof. That's fascinating.
It's an actual story. Like, it's an actual adventure story. It deals with an antagonist that, we've been teased about, and we're finally, getting some more information on. Not only that, it's setting up the thing that Star Trek does so well, which is, hey, look at this villainous, terrible enemy that there's no way you could ever love. Guess what? We're going to find a way to show you that they are worth loving and worth hoping about.
Do we know that?
This is, man, there are so many times in this episode they set up that the Gorn are going to eventually be like, the Klingons and like we will have Gorn crew members.
Yes,
at some
we
point.
will.
Like,
and it's going to be fucking cool.
Like, at least, I mean, if the show's not doing that, I am very confused by some of the dialogue in this one. So I was locked in pretty early on Pike, starting to feel that way, and that allowed me to connect deeper to the Gorn story, because there's clearly something going on with what they're going to be, talking to us about. The Gorn sentience and why they are the way they are. So yeah, I like that stuff. I thought it was beautiful. Have all the episodes been in 16:9, or was that just this episode?
I think that was just this episode.
It was so cinematic, and that's
yeah.
and of course that aspect ratio is a very cinematic aspect ratio. And if the other episodes are that way too, that's great. I just think this episode was so much more cinematic that it stood out to me. But yeah, I thought it was a beautiful little movie. Like, I thought it was like a really compelling and interesting, and yeah, I liked this one.
Nice, awesome, that's great. Ambassador Deneé, overall thoughts and feelings.
Yeah. I am so disappointed in this episode because it's the last one, and I'm like, this is it. Oh, it's done. We're done. I really had a good time in this one.
I'm so confused. I think I may be going through a quarter life crisis or something.
Deneé and I have been texting in the background. Let's tell him we really loved it, even though both of us hated it.
Oh yeah, and then just troll me completely. I'm going to be on an island here. I definitely did not enjoy this episode. I may have to watch it again. I was super switched off. I'm going to come off as the negative one. I, much like Under the Cloak of, and this might be an interesting thing, I genuinely think, this is going to sound so dickish, but I think my standards might be too high. So,
Totally get it.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
Sound like a dick. Under the Cloak of War, where I compared it to like The Wounded and other ways Star Trek has done this, I'm not going to watch this episode again because it's been done better by so many other Star Trek episodes. There was just not much for me to cling on to here. Oh, damn it. Why did I say cling on?
Klingon.
There wasn't much for me to hold on to here. No, it wasn't.
You're pulling me. That's what I do?
There was a pun in this episode. I was like, was that intentional? Because they don't emphasize it really.
Oh, wait, what was the pun? What was it?
It was like, well, I'm not breaking out into song every 10 minutes, but that is a minor miracle or whatever.
The
like
minor miracle, yeah.
Like key, like in a minor key. I don't know.
Very
Anyways,
minor.
I was like, was that intentional?
That's amazing. No, I see what they're going for, and I get it, but I did not have a good time with it.
Can I address this has been done better before? Because you have that knowledge and I don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have they dealt with an enemy in Star Trek that is so clearly creature-based monster, right? So not a monster because of their actions, but they can talk to us, they're humans. Like, have there been other villains that they've dealt with, combat with or whatever, that have just been literal monsters? Like, they don't look like us? Because that's kind of what I loved about what they did with the Gorn here, is that they're dealing with a non-humanoid species.
Yeah.
And every species in Star Trek has always been humanoid in some way or another. And this species definitely isn't. And I think that's so interesting for Star Trek to go there. So the Gorn part makes it a little different for me, but maybe there have been other examples of this that I don't know about.
No, I get it. It hasn't been done explicitly like this. I think the Xindi might be the closest, because the Xindi have 5 different subspecies, and they were the big antagonist of season 3 of Enterprise. And they have a mammalian species, which looks like us. They have a reptilian species, which basically looks like the Gorn. They have a whale species, and they were the big bad guys that ended up kind of being misled and ended up being the good guys. But it's not really like this. I get what you mean. I like it, but that's one of the things I couldn't. And this might be a thing where part 2 elevates it, because if they do end up making the Gorn more kind of
complex,
yeah, that's a good word for it. Complex, and I'm sure they will be. They have space travel and whatnot. But this episode, like the one from last season, which was an Alien ripoff, felt like Aliens again. Again, it felt like these just alien creatures that I couldn't latch onto that were just cannon fodder. And it's like, we're just going to kill some Gorn babies now because we're just going to vaporize them on site.
But I felt like the show was wrestling with that. Like the show was
when did it do that?
When they're talking about wait, they just left them here, and they're hungry,
they're trying to humanize them.
Yeah, there's an element of just
maybe
they, if you were just left to survive for yourself on a planet, and just how would you turn out? I don't know. Again, not explicitly in this episode, but it feels like they're really
that to me too.
I
mean, especially when Pike was like, we may actually be able to communicate with them, and his girl is. I think she says something along the lines of, you're always hopeful.
But she's going to be the key. She is going to be the key. They're going to figure out something with her Gorn blood. Yes, they're going to figure out something with her Gorn blood that is going to allow them to communicate with the Gorn better, and they're going to find some stuff out. The
Gorn are going to give them the cure to save Batel. Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
We mentioned that we don't always reference the live chat, but I am going to mention Slab mentioned species 8472, which is another probably better example from Voyager, and that's a species that was very much like the Gorn, completely alien, completely nasty. But the only way we could communicate with them is that they could shapeshift into humans. So the only way they ended up communicating is when they turned into humans.
If the Gorn can try to consecutively enter a code into a computer and continue to get it wrong, which we saw in this episode, they can communicate. You know what I mean?
Of course.
We can find a way to communicate with them.
I don't doubt that at all, because they're making spaceships. They have mastered faster than light travel. I don't think that Star Trek is presenting them as the aliens from Alien and just hunting on instinct and whatnot. But I'm not scared of them as anything other than a big bug from Men in Black. And I like the intellectual stuff much more. The Borg is a great comparison. A lot of people have compared, this is Strange New World's Borg, because they're scary, they're ruthless, they just want to be at war. But I always knew that the Borg had an intelligence behind them as well, and they kind of stepped on humans because they were lesser beings. I'm not getting that from the Gorn. The Romulans, really, really intelligent. From the Gorn, I'm just getting aliens attack and impregnate you.
And despite the setup that they're doing, we also know, because of where this falls in the timeline, that the Gorns aren't a part of the Federation, or like I guess we don't know I guess there are always possible alien species that could have been in the Federation that we didn't know about, but
they're kind of markedly absent from TNG, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, everything.
Everything
They
after
don't
TOS,
appear.
right?
Yeah, after TOS. Yeah. Ambassador, jumping off of that as a fresh pair of eyes, you have no knowledge about the Gorn at all. How do they strike you as a bad guy now that they've been fleshed out? How did they work in the episode?
Well, I want to say that somewhere out there, somebody watched Alien the first time, and they were like, oh, this is a ripoff of this other creature that I read about in a book one time. Like, ideas are lizard people. There's going to be stories, interesting stories of all kinds of things, and it's going to feel very familiar because you saw something that it's referencing. It's also referencing something else. I mean, we don't have... There's just ideas are shared and shared and shared, or they're just something where someone's writing something and they're going to make a creature and it reminds you of something else.
I will add to that. I agree with Deneé. The episode featuring the Gorn last season was an Alien ripoff because it literally ripped off the moments of, like, it was trying to be a mirror to Alien. I didn't feel like this was trying to be a mirror to any Alien movie unless I missed some. I don't think there was a single Alien reference in this episode unless I missed it.
So going off of your question, I wanted to preface by saying it doesn't bother me that it might feel similar, and I also didn't get the ripoff thing because I only know Alien from how do you avoid seeing anything from Alien anymore. And
ripoff is probably too harsh. That's probably not a good way of saying it.
Like, so for me, even the Gorn episode was really interesting because even though there are elements that I can say I know are referenced, I'm not having the same experience where it feels like I'm watching something and have that same expectation.
Right.
So I'm a new audience in that way. But even Alien's ideas weren't original. They came, somebody somewhere is going to say, oh, that came from a book that I read about, things popping out of chests or whatever. Like, so
every song contains the same 8 notes, like it's,
I don't have an issue. I'm not saying I have an issue with that.
So that I wanted to say that, so I don't get the Alien vibe. I thought they were fucking cool. Those adult Gorn were so badass looking to me. Like when the tail came down, I was like, and they're so like, because we didn't see adult Gorns. I don't remember seeing them like this.
We didn't.
And I know
we didn't. We
they
saw like
are
adolescent
armored.
ones.
They are wearing gear. They are ready for like space exploration. They're not just some lizard on a ship. This is like a technology-driven being, and then we're learning more about their origins as well. And I'm watching it going, holy shit. These guys are so fucking scary. And the fight between Spock and Chapel where they're out there, I was in it. And it was like slow-mo, but it was still super fucking intense. And I'm just like, oh my God, they're using their tail as a weapon. And they're like clinging to shit. They just look super, super cool. They're big old fucking claws. And then they had this really great like close up where they do the thing which I love to sin when we sin stuff that's like from space where like inside the helmet it's lit up for cinematic effect. Not sure if it's really great to just blind yourself while you're out in space like that, but like for it
also,
looks
that
cool.
thing was fogging up so much. They really need to work on their space helmets.
But it was like, why is it foggy? Is it because that's like a lens that they need? There's just a lot of creativity that I can have inside of who the Gorn are. And I'm really curious about them. And I'm really pissed at Strange New Worlds for not getting into it for this entire season because clearly they have this really interesting story going on there. And they're like, but we're not going to tell you about it till later. Dun, 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 strike. So we are like going, oh, okay, so they're doing something here and they're just doing it in the finale. But like their little helmet with they're just their little lizard head and the way that they're shaped was really fascinating, to me personally.
Nice.
The little
That's
creatures are just creepy enough because little ones are quick.
Yeah, that's the danger,
I'm not
isn't it?
afraid of like mama, daddy copperheads. I'm scared of the little bitty ones. They're just like, and
They're gonna crawl up your trouser leg.
They're so fast,
Yeah.
So when we see the Gorn that comes into the shuttle, for example, it's like up close, and I'm trying to remember. Okay, what were the rules of the Gorn last time? Because the rules are changing this time. So to answer your question, I was really engaged in them specifically, but that's
nice.
I'm a new user. I'm a new person
That's
to
great.
this
That's
kind
awesome.
of space. So yeah, I think like I want to go back and kind of watch a couple parts of it because I just want to I want to pull up just a still shot of that Gorn, the adult Gorn body, because it was really rad looking to me.
To be clear, I don't have a problem with the creature design. I do think that's really great, and they are really, really cool looking. It's more the vibe that they give off, and the whole just being super creepy and then impregnating you with their egg sacs and whatnot. That as a species, we still know so little about them, and for me, that's not a scary absence of knowledge. That's some kind of knowledge. I want something more than just they hunt you and they impregnate you, so we're going to vaporize them on sight. I need something more from my bad guys to be intimidated by them, but I completely agree. They look awesome. The creature design is really, really cool. So we had some interesting love stuff that got developed. This is clearly what the series has been leading to, like you said, Aaron. So the Pike Patel situation, the Spock and Chapel situation, how did that hit you this week?
I was just glad we didn't have any Kirk and La'an situation. I was just glad we were dealing with 66% of the soap opera instead of the full 100%. No, I continue to be not weirded out, but a little bit disinterested in the Spock Chapel thing because I just think it's been so poorly deepened this season. Like the Spock being so forlorn over this is it's just weird to me. And I haven't seen the show. The show hasn't had enough time. It just hasn't had enough time to feel like these things are properly set up for me.
And you know what? I don't need a love interest for Spock to save Chapel. Just saving a human is fine. Saving a crewmate is fine.
In the Pike Battelle stuff is set up in the pilot. It's set up in the first episode. Mm-hmm. That feels more natural to me that we've been, like this is a part, like it's just, I don't know. The Spock Chapel stuff does not work for me at all. And like you said, it doesn't need to be there for like, what if this rescue was something that deepened their relationship in some way, that then they started, having very minor things, and then 2 seasons down the road they say, what is this, and they actually have, like it just feels more like natural than what this season tried to do with them. How
about you, Deneé?
There's some things that I'm not gonna beat a dead horse on this one. I think everybody knows how I feel about some of the way that they go about the intensity of love stories in the season. It doesn't hit for me the same way. But what I do like is the idea that they gave Chapel and M'Benga this like warrior-esque vibe. So, when I ask myself, why is Chapel the only one to survive off of an entire ship? The only thing I can go to is, I guess that's because she's been through so much, her body just won't let her die.
Yeah, she was unconscious. She had nothing to do with it. She just happened to get unconscious in the right place at the right time.
And I know that's it. I know we're skipping into some sin territory here, but it just we've seen the spacewalk stuff with M'Benga already too, so it's like it's not a far reach for me to go, oh, of course she's willing to do that, because she was willing to do that and she didn't even have, I think, her full gear last time they did it. So she's a survivor. So it really, like, I hope she's in counseling. She's had so much trauma going on, and she has no time to process it. They beam in and it's, you guys got to get to work. Yep, we're going to work now. And then she jumps into the next trauma. And I do wish that we had more episodes through the seasons so that we could maybe dig into character work a little bit. I don't know.
Every episode feels precious when there's only 10, doesn't it? Every episode feels like it has to do so much.
Well, and when you find an episode that has so much action and activity and just different characters interacting with each other in new ways and problem solving, my mind is just buzzing. There's so much we could talk about. It's not just the relationship stuff. There's the problem solving angle. We got to see them use the equipment again. You've got Spock looking into that periscope thing, and you have the communications that are down, and so there's new ways of doing it. You've got, Uhura solving problems. You've got everyone in different stations shifting around, just trying to get clever. We saw a fucking saucer section smash into a planet because of rockets. Like, there's so much that happens in this episode that I'm happy to not. I'm happy to not be bothered
they
by the
didn't-
relationship stuff. It seems like it was just a needed moment where they said, let's find a way to still have something between us, because death is obviously not ideal, and I want us to be cool on the day that we die.
I do wish Patel had given him a little more crap for coming to save her, like, for white knighting her. She has a little bit of that. I wish she would have laid in a little bit more and just been like, you know, all you did was put us both in danger, you idiot. You know,
And your
like
crew.
and your crew. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. I'm glad we didn't spend a huge amount of time on it. I think it was used to inform why people are doing what they're doing this time around. But like you said today, my favorite part of this episode actually is the problem solving and the technical stuff. We can get into the Scotty of it all.
Yes, can we? Because there was a moment where I know
I know
the
this person.
phrases. I know the phrases. I think I can recognize his face. I think I've recognized his face before when he came on to was it Picard that he came on to the ship?
No, I don't.
Didn't he
no,
appear?
this is the
Didn't
first time.
Scotty make an appearance as an older person? Like
Scotty would have been long gone by Picard's time, right?
So my brain's going a million places. So the original actor that played Scotty, yes, appears in TNG in one episode. But
No,
this is a completely
maybe that
new
was it. Maybe that
actor
was it.
playing him. We
I
haven't
can't
seen this
remember-
actor before.
no. I know, but like
And he's in older. Is it Doohan? Is that the actor's name? What's
James
you know?
Doohan.
Ian?
Yeah.
Doohan. James Doohan. Older James Doohan does not look like younger James Doohan.
No, he really doesn't.
he really does
Good.
look at all
no
like
worries.
him.
You know, age changes you. No, the reason that I was saying that is because I'm trying to kind of give a little glimpse of my knowledge of Scotty is limited to the phrases that I've seen popped out in pop culture. And then during this podcast, maybe we did watch that TNG episode and I saw him on the deck at one point. And I was like, oh, was that Scotty? And I don't remember what we were watching. But I don't have I don't have enough experience with him that the first time I heard the accent, I put it together. Right before he said his name, I was like, oh my God, I think this is Scotty. And then he said his name. I was like, oh.
Simon Pegg would be your Scotty because you've seen the J.J. Abrams movies more than anything else.
Oh yeah, I did watch those movies.
Yeah. So that would be your Scotty. But I think he did a great job.
Oh, I thought he was perfect.
It was great.
Yeah.
Do we need a name drop? Another character from TOS? Probably not. But there is an inherent amount of fun in having Scotty because he's such a great
easily
character.
forgivable stuff, though. Like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like this, and we say this all the time because of what we do in our, as part of this job. Sinning something doesn't mean it's not forgivable. Like movies and TV shows are movies and TV shows for a reason. They have to do that kind of stuff because they're serving the fans, they're serving the audience. And this is an easy one to just forgive because it's so much fun.
Can I say thank you to the chat for saying it was Relics? Thank you
Relics.
guys.
Yeah, that's the name of the TNG episode. I don't think we've done an episode on it, but I think we may have watched it at some point. But yeah, no, new Scotty. Again, this is the third time. Yeah, the third iteration of this character. So again, the level of difficulty for the actor to take on this iconic role is super high, and he does a great job. He does
a great job.
Fun.
He was
do
so
think-
fun.
I do think when you start to think about how in the great vastness of space exploration,
Yes.
that everybody who eventually worked on the Enterprise had contact with the Enterprise
Just
before
keep
they
bumping
worked
into
there.
each other at some
It's
point.
really weird.
Hey,
amazing.
strange things happen in real life too.
Yeah, strange
what
new
I-
cameos.
What I loved about this character, and I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I've been watching the chat, and I feel like there's some familiarity that this character is like emulating that you guys might be familiar with. I'm not. I loved his demeanor. There's a lightness to him in this heavy episode
That's
that
Scotty.
was just such a nice sort of balance. Of it. It's not that he was trying to be humorous. He's just fucking brilliant. Like this guy is brilliant. And I remember all the things like fix it, Scotty. And I'm thinking, oh, like this is just how he is. He's just this really,
He
I'm
is
going
the
to put this
miracle
together and
worker.
this together. And I'm going to make a miracle happen. And so to see it coming out, like, yes, it's convenient that his shuttle crashed. Right. And yes, of course. That's kind of like whatever. But I loved how he talked, not just the accent, which was great. I love hearing accents, but like how he talked about what he was talking about. There was a little bit of snark. There was a little bit of sass. There was levity. There was creativity. There was excitement. He has a spark, and it was
He does.
really cool to watch.
He really
him.
does.
And he and Pelia are fire together. I just want them in every scene together.
He just like wilted a little bit in front of her.
yeah.
It was so great.
Yeah, she was like one of my best students who got some of the worst grades.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But and this is that was one of my favorite things when I rewatched TOS. Scotty is what I look forward to because he's not just the goofy Scotsman that is like usually like the dork that just goes and solves all the problems, is then socially awkward, makes a fool of himself somehow. Scotty is in command of the Enterprise in numerous episodes. He makes difficult decisions where he's just like, we're not dropping the shields to rescue everybody because that will blow up the ship and my responsibility is to look after the ship. Like, he gets to do really badass command, grown-up stuff as well. He's not just the comic relief and the person that gets bossed around, which is what Simon Pegg was a little bit too much for me in the J.J. Abrams movies. But this Scotty seems like take charge Scotty as well, even though he's a bit younger.
He feels real. Like, he feels like a full character. And I know I said this earlier in Strange New Worlds when we talked about season 1, just the gravity of taking up the mantle of these massive characters and how it's got to feel really intense. Like Ortegas, I love Ortegas. Right? She's great.
She's incredible.
But it's a new character. And so she can kind of like, there's rhythm and there's play there. Whereas if you're like, and you're playing Scotty.
Go. Okay.
So
just one of the most iconic Star Trek memes, just in general, is anything Scotty.
Yeah. Or Spock or any of these characters that have such a gravity to them and there's such history. So to be able to hit it where it feels right and it feels fully realized and to perform confidently to camera, like what a great, I just feel like I saw something really special. And for that reason, I once again hope that the strikes have a really beautiful solution in favor of the people who create, because they need to be commended for their brilliance and what they give to the characters, not just the people who produce the stuff, who have a lot of work to do too. And it's like, this episode is watching everyone just at their best, it feels like. So it's just like, and I'm like, not only is it the very fucking last one of the season, but also I don't know when we're going to see it again. And it makes me sad. But I'm still really glad that I saw it. Scotty was so fun. So fun. Like, when he beams in with this just big, like, carriage of all this shit.
All this broken stuff. Yeah. It's like, I gotta fix it. I really hope this is his introduction to Strange New Worlds. I hope that as much as I love Pelia, I mean, we barely saw her this season, I really hope that this is his introduction, as this is how he becomes Chief Engineer of the Enterprise. I think that would be pretty
Is
perfect.
there any known canon for his introduction to the Enterprise and how he became?
Yeah, as long what I was about to say is that he's not in The Cage, which is the pilot, but he is in the next episode, which is TOS, and we're in that 7-year gap. So I think it's kind of open season for when he joins the crew, as long as it happens at some point. So yeah, I think this is pretty perfect.
That's good. That feels good. I mean, I know that they're really paying attention to that too, as writers and people who love this, material. So
yeah, I think there is a care in getting the timeline right.
We're trying to.
I think there is. All right, I want to jump onto something that I think was a missed opportunity. So you guys liked the Spock getting the thrusters onto the ship, save Chapel, fight with the Gorn business.
Yes.
This might be the point where my brain switched off from this episode. It's because there was this, for me, this missed opportunity for Star Trek to do something that Star Trek does really well, which was to have a moral quandary and a moral problem here. Where I thought they were going to go was, we're going to put thrusters onto the saucer section, we're going to send it into the planet. However, we don't know 100% for certain that there aren't survivors aboard the planet. So it's this needs of the many versus needs of the few thing, where we will destroy the saucer section to save everyone on the planet, but we're sacrificing anybody that might still be alive on the ship. Like, what if Spock turned up and there's 50 survivors that he finds? Number one, Una has to then make a call, and then they find out a way to save everybody, and it's fine. But instead, it's just, Chapel's alive. Cool. I guess everyone else died. We won't worry about that. Cool. No moral quandary here. We're just going to do a generic end of movie, punch them up, slow motion, grab the phaser, shoot the Gorn, jettison out of here, hold hands in space. For me, that lacked any kind of weight. And it's great. It's like a popcorn moment. Cool. Watch it in the theater, action movie ending. But I got nothing from it other than it being visually really, really cool.
Yeah, they're like twins being birthed from the saucer vagina. Like it was beautiful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I lost that, and if nobody asked the question, is anybody alive? Chapel made it. Is anyone else alive? That question isn't asked, addressed, and it's not just a sin. It's the fact that there's a good story to tell there. There's a good thing to wrestle with. They should have this thing to wrestle with up on the ship and down on the planet. That's a classic TOS thing. But it's just action movie, and I think that soured the finale for me.
There isn't a lot of moral conundrum here, other than the setting up of the moral conundrum of treating the Gorn like cannon fodder or monsters that, we're just killing. But that's not really dealt with here. So I would agree with you that, like, I always do appreciate those moral conundrum episodes, especially when they hit and there's something interesting to think about. And there is an opportunity there for that. It's just not what the show was interested in doing. And it's easy for that stuff also to feel a little underwhelming when you're not invested in their relationship either. So, that's part of it too for me.
Well, and that's one of my biggest things as well, is that, hey, we've said this before, but I know Spock survives, I know Chapel survives. Unless we're doing something very strange here, the stakes are low. Now, the stakes were a bit higher when number one was talking to Spock and talking about the emotions, because I know that the character doesn't know that they both survived this. And I'm invested in Spock being kind of broken up that Chapel may have just died. But when it comes to them both being on the ship and fighting for survival, I'm like, well, there's 3 people here, an unnamed Gorn, Spock, and Chapel. I wonder who's going to survive.
Yeah.
That was something I had written in my sin section was... Will Spock and Chapel survive this? In all capital letters, like
surprise.
I'm so scared.
There was a moment between M'Benga and Ortegas on the planet when Ortegas was like, "Hey, can I help?" And M'Benga says yes, and then they kind of have this Chapel back and forth.
We call him Murderer now.
Oh, okay.
Not
Murderer.
M'Benga. Murderer.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, that's right, because he killed the Klingon.
Uh-huh,
So when the murderer said, like basically like reminiscing about Chapel, and then Ortegas sort of quips back or adds back, this is what she would say is, let's get to work or whatever. That's an example of a lot of emotion in just a short moment. And I have a lot of faith in the writers to be able to duplicate a very meaningful exchange in a short window of time. That was a very short moment in this episode.
It's a great little
that
moment.
had a lot of gravity and weight to it. To your point, Ian, I feel like if they did want to have a moral quandary of, can we scan the saucer section for survivors? Can we do anything to ensure that the people on the planet aren't going to be affected by the saucer crashing in this area? Like,
nope.
They maybe could have had a clever, just quick moment where they could have fleshed something out to at least wink and nod that it's part of their process, part of their procedure. And they didn't do that. And I do agree. I felt like it was missing. I was a little shocked that they were so confident there were no survivors. But then at the same time, I was a little confused. So, they're scanning and they're not seeing survivors, but then some of the scanners aren't working. And so oftentimes with Star Trek, I unfortunately shut off a whole part of my brain that's just I go along for the ride because I don't know how to process what they're saying because it's, mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, and that's what I mean at the top of the episode where I have too much Star Trek to pull from. So my expectations are too high. I'm expecting them to do too much, and it's harder for me to switch my brain off and go along for the ride. It's just something I'm always going to struggle with. I want every episode to be the top 10 best episodes of TNG, and I forget about the 100 episodes of TNG that were a bit naff.
Well, one thing I loved about this, and maybe this will help solve that a little bit for you is that fairly close together, they had two characters very simply state the moral conundrum I think they're going to be going with. One character says, sometimes a monster is just a monster. Yeah. And then very shortly after, Pike, I think, says, sometimes hope is a choice. And like there's this it's setting up this beautiful conundrum between it's an enemy, we kill it, and what if we choose to think differently? So the episode is doing some work. It's just not all happening right now. Like it
doesn't. I'm absolutely positive that's where they're going because it's Commodore April or Admiral April. I can't remember what his rank is. April is the one that's basically like, well, you called them a monster, but that's just because you don't know them yet. So he's being the optimist with, yes, they seem like monsters to you, but that's because they're an unknown.
Right.
And Pike, is going to be dealing with losing Hema, potentially losing Patel, and then having to have negotiations for peace with these people that are just attacking on a whim and have this like kind of barbaric culture by our standards. It wasn't setting it up enough for me.
Sure,
and
I
want
get
a
that.
bit more.
No, I get
like
that.
That 2 sentences isn't enough. I want Pike to be the bastion of tolerance. And yes, they're bastards, but I'm gonna be the shining light. The one little turn that I really liked was when they arrive, the Karuga has been destroyed. It's in pieces.
That was intense. And that was really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. Pike's first line is no assumptions. Like, he just turns to the crew and says, assume nothing. Like, we don't know this was the Gorn. We don't know what happened. Calm the fuck down. Let's get the facts together. So that's what I want them to play with more, is that, yes, personally, he may be struggling with these bastards are dinosaurs and I hate them. With, this is what I have to do as a captain. This is how I have to lead my people. And I hope that's where we stick him and not in the I hate Gorn, let them die thing.
Well, maybe Erderer will have a conversation with him about his regret for killing his war enemy, and that will bring him around.
I mean, what are we doing with Mbenga? Because there's a line where Sam Kirk is like, I would like to investigate them, and Ortegas is like, with phasers? And he's like, yes, I would like to investigate them with phasers. And then Mbenga's like, I would like to join on that investigation. Are you just making light about vaporizing aliens, Doctor?
I too enjoy killing things.
Cringed. It's like, do no harm unless you're not human. I don't get it. What are we doing with him? Has to.
There's a child as a battery that has never been revisited, and I will never forget it. Just as a reminder, this show is totally fine with doing that. This show will leave a child on a planet to die a terrible, horrible death
as a battery
and never return.
Season 3, episode 1, Kirk just comes in on a shuttle with McCoy, who has a cure for everything, and they just all take over. I think that's what happens.
McCoy shows up with the battery child. He saved them.
Yes. He has the cure. Amazing. Right. Anything else you want to talk about before we do our nitpicking CinemaSins?
I covered all the stuff I loved, and there was a bunch. We mentioned how visually stunning and all that kind of stuff. So I think we've covered,
is a beautiful episode.
Covered most of what I wanted to cover on the positive side. I did have a question. Whenever they name check somebody, I always want to check with you, Ian, to see if it's an actual reference. And it seemed weird that they name-checked both first and last name of Doug Appel. Is that supposed to be somebody? Like, she calls him Doug, and then shortly after somebody's like, such and such Appel.
I missed that. Who was that referring to?
Okay, so it's the guy with, what's her name?
The captain. Was this right at the beginning? The guy
right at the beginning on the planet. Yeah, the guy walks up and she calls him Doug. And
I mean, maybe, but it's not prevalent enough for me to know about it.
All right,
maybe he's like.
Listen, when somebody gets name checked like that, I'm like, you're saying names. What do those names mean?
You just full named him. Maybe he's a red shirt that ends up dying in TOS, and they're just name checking some red shirts.
Yeah. Okay.
No, not one that jumped out at me.
I have a short list, I think, of some things I would want to just kind of mention.
Yeah, go for it.
One was Spock's confidence, like when he says, I'm the person that can do this, and he just like clearly communicates his reasoning for being the one that's got to go on this mission. I really loved that. There was something super confident about it. And in an episode where there's a whole bunch of confusion happening, I thought that was a very needed moment to have a character that's so clear in their purpose. It kind of calmed me down a bit instead of being like, what the hell's gonna happen? I'm like, oh, Spock, okay, he knows what he's doing. Like,
He has super strength.
And I missed that, which we've talked about. He's been struggling with the humanity and the feelings, and that's a fun thing to explore for his backstory. And we're kind of watching the TOS backstory, right? And I don't necessarily mind it all the time, but I really miss this moment when he's like, this is clearly what I'm doing. And so I really like that scene.
Assuring when you have a character take charge, be confident in their abilities, and there's a specific reason for it. It's not just blind arrogance. It's, I'm a Vulcan. I physically am the only one strong enough to do the heavy lifting here, and also to do the mental math on the fly of getting this
completely
done.
Logical. It makes sense. We're all relaxed. Yep, go do your thing.
Yeah.
I also thought that even though it's a bit cheesy, that like when they are birthed out of the saucer section into space, and they kind of hold hands while they watch it crash, it just looked cinematic as fuck, and I loved it.
Of course, it's beautiful.
It's so good. It looks so good. I mean, everything on this one just looked so badass to me, including their away team gear.
The jackets.
Not only the jackets, but that tactical gear that looked like armor when it was like Ortegas and a murderer and Pike going down to the planet.
I love it.
It was so cool looking, because even the captains had that yellow sheen. Do you know what I mean?
That's just what you want from tactical gear, is a highly reflective gold surface.
That's right.
But like Ortegas was red. I just noticed some really fun things. They had like the foldable flip phone. It was so good. I just really loved what that looked like. But their jackets, their weight jackets that are fully on screen at the very beginning, I once again am...
Oh, they are sexy as heck. And I know I can buy them. It's only $400. Like,
hold on,
I think it's a Novos or somebody.
Can we all just back
them.
up a second? There was a moment not long ago that you didn't want to buy $70 of shuttles, but a $470 jacket is
I can't wear
tempting.
the shuttle.
Well, not with that attitude, you can't.
And
just make little earrings out of the shuttles. That's what I would do.
The only other thing, also in that Spock moment too, when his boots hit the saucer section, the music that was going on then was a little bit Stranger Things meets TOS. Did you guys notice the music?
And I picked up on that.
It was kind of like a little, is it MIDI? I don't know what they call the type of sound to it, but I thought that was really compelling. And that just, again, shows that the people who are putting this shit together.
Yeah, the score is incredible in every episode.
Yeah, I love the score. I watch the intro just to hear the music because it makes me so happy.
Blue Beetle, which I just saw, has a lot of the same kind of feel to it too. There's this real move back towards like a Blade Runner, like Vangelis, like kind of like almost electronic kind of sound to sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting return to something that was really popular in like the late 70s, early 80s.
It's so good. It's one of my favorite things about Stranger Things is just the music. There can be some nonsense happening on screen, and it gets all the grace because it's got an 80s synth just punctuating the bollocks off of it. I love that so much.
Yeah, it just looks so good. Everything looks and sounds just really excellent, and I wanted to make sure that we hit on that, but also just the cleverness of like going through the space debris, and we talked about that it was a fun kind of how are we going to solve this puzzle, but all the like the little ways that they kind of went about their trouble, and even the team that was on the planet also trying to figure out how they're going to do the same thing. So it was just very clever, and I had a good time watching it.
No, I love that. Whenever you talk about flying a saucer section into a planet, I'm like, let's go, let's do it. I don't care how much nonsense this is. It's so fun, and it's so pretty to look at as well. Just like the saucer section burning up in the atmosphere, and the logic of the plan was great. Like, put tons of scrap metal on the shuttle and send it in, just like little basketball volley into the end zone. I'm mixing up all of the sports metaphors. I love it. I thought that plan was great, and just that beaming grin on Ortegas' face. Just match that with Data when he's flying the Enterprise through the Borg ship at the end of Picard. It's just that pilot thing is so fun. Well, I don't want to come off as super negative, even though I was a little bit. I get it. You guys have brought me round a little bit, and I am really happy that you guys enjoyed it. I think where I land is that this is punching for a big, impactful cliffhanger, and it's just that. I mean, we didn't even talk about the cliffhanger, really. What did you guys think of the cliffhanger? Does that work for you?
Oh, well, I talked about it a little bit. I thought it worked for me because there is resolution to the episode. Like there's resolution to saving Chapel. There's resolution to saving Batel. Like there are things set up for us that the plot is doing that we get resolved. I hate when to be continued comes up on the screen. I'm just kind of done with like being so on the nose about it. Of course it's to be continued. Like, what's the other option? You know? Like,
I know how long this episode is. You didn't cut it off after 17 minutes.
So
and
I get annoyed.
To be continued. That would have been shocking.
I get annoyed at that a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, it was fine. It doesn't. I mean, cliffhangers are cliffhangers. You know, TV show's got a TV show.
I think what worked for me is the intensity of the moment. There's this literal space battle on the screen behind him in space debris of a ship that's already blown up. It was a nice twist for me that the Gorn were the ones that beamed up the people, because I kind of relaxed. I was like, oh, they saved the day, you know, da-da-da-da. But it wasn't us, it was them, because the Gorn are coronal mass ejection smart people somehow, you know? And so that was a nice little twist. So then you think that you're in the clear, and then no, there's still so much to solve. And I went and looked at the time, and I had 40 some seconds left of the show, and I was like, oh no, we're doing a cliffhanger. There's nothing to be done in 40 seconds that's going to be. And so the buildup of the tension of what's your choice. And then you got the Federation calling in saying you cannot start a war right now. We're not ready, even though you have your Gorn protocol boxes. It's not enough. So that was, to me, it worked, because I was like, eee, and it's too long to go longer. But if this were the first episode of the season, and then the second episode started with like 3 weeks earlier, and then we watched the whole season.
Never. No, I never would. I would stop watching Star Trek. I would never watch another episode of Star Trek ever again.
As long as season 3 starts with a courtroom episode,
oh my
I'm
God,
good.
that's what I'm afraid
I hope we skip it entirely. Just 2 years later. Yep, that was weird. I guess we got out of that mess.
I don't know, man. I feel like they would next season start off with like previously on, and then all of a sudden it's like just 10 minutes before or something like this.
My goodness, if they do previously on and it just shows the kid in like the box powering the planet, that's the previously on.
Battery child is the previously
Here's
on.
the thing. This is an example of the feel of a to be continued working if it's for next week. But to do it at the end of a season, this is a perfect example of how we're never guaranteed another season. And
oh my goodness,
if the writers and if they were trying to tell a story and they never get to actually share it because of things outside of their control, I think it's a disservice to the fans, and I think it's a disservice to the work that they've done to build a really great story. So I saw something pop through in the chat that they'd already like gone through like the first half of season 3 when the writer's strike started. If that's true, then maybe they have already created that and potentially will be willing to release it. But I don't trust, that we're going to see it when you end a season on it. I can't trust that we're going to see it. And I just think that it's like one of the worst things you can do. Our George Martin, perfect.
Yes, George R.R. Martin.
Here's a guy who fucking can't finish his goddamn book, And I'm just, that's why I don't start series until it's all done, because I need to know where we're going. Otherwise, I have to do the thing where I make it up. And let me tell you right now, what I made up in my head for how this is going to end is super great. But I don't want to compare my super great story to the actual thing when it comes out, number one, because I don't trust it's going to come out. And it pisses me off because of the circumstances. And you should never do a cliffhanger like this if it's not going to be to next week's episode. That's my opinion.
I get it. I think they obviously knew that they had a season 3 going into this. I don't think if that was still up in the air, I don't think they would have done this. But yeah, you can't predict when that season 3 is going to be. Anything can happen. I'm sure they didn't want a 2 or 3 year gap between seasons, but in hindsight, when I'm 75 and rewatching these episodes, I'll forget that there was ever a gap between them.
I thought you were going to say when I'm 75 and we're finally watching season 3.
Oh, no. No Star Trek until I'm 75. Oh, my goodness. Amazing. There's our final general thoughts on the episode. Let's head over to engineering for some sins. Battle stations, everyone.
Warning. Warp core collapse in 10 seconds.
This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sim brains, remind ourselves that no TV shows have outseen even our beloved Star Trek. Commodore.
Hi.
You first, sir.
I already mentioned the amazingness that when you're going to colonize another planet of choosing the most nostalgic point in American history, where, issues like running water and indoor plumbing,
It must just be a purely aesthetic thing. Like somehow you got enough people to agree. I mean, that's an achievement in itself, to agree that the aesthetic of the 60s and 70s or 50s, whatever, is what you're going for, with some modern bits on top of it.
Anyhow, I already mentioned that, so I will mention this one, and I expect, Ian, you might have an answer for this.
You give me some credit.
Why can the Gorn, with just some magical device, shut down their transporters and communications, but not their weapons?
Oh, biggest sin of the show. MacGuffin is MacGuffin. This thing that seems
OP.
so
yeah. Well, and but only OP in the areas that it can be, so that they still have some areas that they can use.
Weapons, I get, like they can't target their weapons because that uses scanners. But if I'm just going to fire a phaser or a torpedo randomly into space, there's not much you can do. I mean, you can write a way to counteract that, fine. But this OP scanning, transporting, communicating, blockout thing is insane. Great plot device, makes you have to do some interesting things. But this is a crippling weapon. Like this does so much work, and it is so overpowered. And we just the crux of it is that it just won't matter next week. Like this isn't something that we're gonna have to wrestle with. This isn't something that I think the Federation is gonna... This is like the pivotal point in the war, is that this was so difficult because of this massive gadget they have. This felt like an episode device rather than a big part of the culture.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my sense.
I think a good comparison is like the Borg being able to assimilate you. Like that's not just a plot device that makes them scary. That's part of why they are so terrifying. Deneé.
The biggest one for me is when Pike leaves the to go find the shuttle on his own. So he kind of sneaks away while everyone's asleep, and he goes to remove the chairs, thereby leaving everyone in danger of being eaten by Gorn.
Yeah, were those chairs just decorative?
Because his plan is to what? Get on the other side and then put the chairs back somehow? Like at least wake someone up and say, will you put the chairs back? Because that's leaving everybody exposed. So he's going to go save everyone by creating a hole in their defenses. And that really was stupid.
As captain, guess what? You don't need to sneak away. You're the fucking captain. Like...
It was a strange strategic decision that wasn't strategic in the right ways.
Yeah, because it's kind of really selfish as well, because you're the leader. Like, they look to you for strength and guidance, and you're just going to sneak off on a pretty dangerous mission on your own. I mean, he outranks Patel because she doesn't have a ship at the minute, and he does. So he could just put her in her place and say, stay put, look after everybody. I'm going to go and get the thing. So yeah, weird choices. Weird choices. My one, and this is a really brutal sin, is why wasn't Chapel in sickbay? Like, sickbay was completely destroyed. Where was she in this state of emergency? Was she in 10 forward? Like, was she on her way to... Yep, just had to use the toilet, apparently. So Chapel should be dead because she should have been at her post. Commodore, your turn.
Let's see. That's brilliant. Make yourself look like a piece of space debris. You mean like Star Wars? Just a blatant ripoff of Empire Strikes Back there with the
No,
space
it's
debris.
not. You see, you have like these movies that are influences, and Star Wars was influenced by something else.
No, so
Maybe they read it in a book.
That's just trolling. Here's the actual sin. How quickly did they attach that like debris around the ship that it was like secure and like welded on and
Where
like
did the debris come from? Did they strip parts of the Enterprise?
Right.
Or did they just turn the ship magnets on?
Like that
and
seems
just,
at
they're just
least
attracting
like a
bits and
2-day
pieces?
process to get that ship ready to look like debris.
That seems a lot.
Yeah.
That seems like a lot. Deneé.
The Gorn may be amazing villains, but they really suck at sneaking with the tails coming down. Like, and maybe I saw in the comments that someone said that these are not actually adult Gorns because they're going to shed their tails at some point. So I don't know if maybe that's based on...
I thought interesting.
Right?
I thought the Gorn did have a tail. Maybe not. I thought the Gorn in TOS did have a tail, but maybe they don't.
So I find, number one, that fascinating, that this isn't even their final form. So my sin, if I had that knowledge, would be that this is probably part of why they had to keep evolving, because they're really stupid at sneaking up on people because their tail just kind of goes, hey, knock, knock. Can you see me? Because there's 2 times in the show where we see the tail first. So, but I would just...
It would be really interesting.
I try to find a clever way to send that.
If the Gorn that Kirk fights is actually an Elder Gorn, and eventually we do get to see that Gorn on screen, and it's like, yeah, no, these are the 70-year-old Gorn. They don't look like that until they're really fucking old.
It's the derpy Gorn.
The rest of the time, if we'd seen them in TOS, they would have looked like this. My turn. This is a really, really big one. This one, again, really switched me off on the episode. And it's... If you're on the Enterprise, you would assume that the number one goal of the people down on the planet is to deactivate the big Gorn thing that's blocking communications and whatnot. So what I'm not going to do is throw a ship at them while there's a good... Which is exactly what they were kind of doing. Like, they were very close. Like, the plan on the ground would be deactivate the thing that's stopping us from using all of our stuff. The Enterprise trying to blow it up seems really counterproductive and kind of almost working against the crew. What I'm saying is, how did they know that throwing the saucer section at the scanner wasn't going to kill Pike and everybody that was down there to try and deactivate it? Because there's no way of knowing. Like, that's just it. The plan is too risky because you're gonna cure the disease by killing the patient. Like, yeah, cool. Everyone's rescued because they don't need rescuing anymore. We killed them with the saucer section of the Karuga. Is that right? Am I missing something?
No. I think you're right. I think just you're in a situation where you just have to make choices and, like, you know, they
choose to kill everyone.
Well, they don't know that I think they're making a guess that those would be different locations, but there's no reasonable way to know for sure. So yeah, I think that's a valid thing to think about.
I think
that no one addresses. Like, even if somebody was like, but what if our people are there as well? And, you know,
nobody
like
talks
somebody,
about it. Like, just
somebody should address it.
And there's a way to avoid it. You do like the Mission Impossible thing, where you do like a deliberate 2-pronged attack. Like, number one, you stay up here, figure out a way to take down that thing. We're heading down there, and you have until we get to the prisoners to deactivate it and beam us up. Like, it could have been a deliberate thing, but it was not. Commodore.
If I see one more flying vehicle dip below my view when it's crashing and then zoom over the camera, I'm out. I'm out of TV and movies.
Crashed?
Movies
I thought it crashed. I thought it completely crashed.
Yeah. It's the thing. It's like, oh, got us. Oh, we really thought that was a crash. Oh, I'm glad glad it came back up and zoomed over. Somebody should do a supercut of all the times that cliche has been done, because it's a lot.
Oh my goodness, 100 of them would be in Star Trek, I think.
Yeah,
just would be.
Yeah,
I love
amazing.
that.
Deneé.
I'm sorry.
Oh, but that's why we get it so much.
That is why it happens, because people love
she
that
was
feeling.
so confident, and she's like over there having a great time, and everyone else is just like, I'm gonna puke, I'm gonna puke, I'm gonna puke.
Yeah. God, I vomit.
I don't have any more, but I do want to say that since my Gorn sin, there's been some really interesting talk about the Gorn potentially having different subspecies. So that would be kind of a fun thing to consider as well.
To be clear, I'm deliberately not saying that. I don't care. Make them look as different as you want. It's Star Trek. I'm not expecting a Gorn from 1967 or whatever it was to appear on screen. We would be laughed off of TV. Like, things evolve. I do not have a single problem with that at all.
So I'm done with my sins, and I'm just gonna sit back and listen.
I mean, put Futile in the transporter buffer until you have a reason, because we kind of know that's what we do. We just put people in the buffer.
That's right. It's always a solution that's right there that nobody ever uses.
Let's put them in the transporter buffer. There we go. Commodore.
Yeah. Let's see. This is a knowledge thing. I don't like it when shows or movies will use the audience's knowledge in place of the character's knowledge. In this case, they make them all so forlorn that sickbay is gone before they even know that Chapel was back on the ship. Like, they don't know if she was on the planet, on the ship.
Yeah, they don't figure that out until...
They don't know that till later, but they are all so like, oh no, sickbay's gone. Well, you know what? There's she could have been on the planet. So anyhow.
But they did inform why weren't you in sickbay, Chapel? Sin? Because everyone kind of thought you were meant to be abandoning your post. I just want to ask if every single season is going to end with Pike looking to camera. It's exactly the same shot, because end of season 1, he looks to camera after that shocking number 1 getting beamed away. So maybe that's just a thing that's going to happen.
This may have an answer and could probably be argumentative. And I would love it if there's an answer to this in whatever the next part of this is. But why was that Gorn on the shipwreck?
I was curious about this too. And I was interesting. You know how there was the one Gorn that was looking up above, like at the light or something? I'm wondering if they were trying to, get technology off of the ship. Like it's...
Yeah. That's what I guessed, is that he was deliberately, the Gorn were left behind deliberately to scavenge for technology, because they were trying to access...
Without a ship?
Don't be so humanist.
Well, the ships were close by.
Just because that's what humans wouldn't do, Aaron. Maybe there's only 5 Gorn that pilot the whole ship. But yeah, I figured they'd been left behind to get into the sensitive areas of the ship and get as much technology as possible.
Okay. Like I said, probably argumentative.
No, I thought it was interesting too, because they weren't eating people.
Yeah, it just
they
seemed
were
weird to me that
scavenging
they
or
would want to be
something.
on the ship at that point. Like, how long has that ship been blown up? Like, I feel like scavenging should have already happened. Like, it just seemed really weird to me. But.
Yeah, but if there had been 6 Gorn there, they wouldn't have stood a chance, Aaron. Chapel and Spock would be dead, and they don't die in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
My last one is really, really silly, but I couldn't avoid it, and we would definitely sin it. It's when they're all sleeping in the cafe, they're all resting and stuff, or the restaurant, whatever it was, and Pike is just leaning in blood. Like, his head is just resting in blood.
So much blood everywhere.
Get your hair off of the wall. Don't lean on the wall. Don't get your lovely Pike hair messed up with all of that human blood.
With all of that melty Jolly Rancher.
Shall we do the predictions?
Well, I do have one more sin if you want to wait for that.
Go for it.
It's just a pretty obviously one, but when Scotty goes with him and he's like, hey, don't blame me because you were having a secret conversation right in front of my sleeping spot. And all you have to do is just add a conveniently after that.
Convenient sleeping spot.
Because what if he's not? What if he doesn't go? It changes everything.
What if he had been asleep?
Yeah, exactly.
Scotty would be on the Gorn ship. We'll quickly go through the predictions. I hijacked Deneé's prediction and suggested there might be a marriage between 2 hedges to explain the hegemony. There was not. There was no Bushes getting married in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Aaron, your big prediction was that Pike would not be in control of his ship.
That's true.
I mean,
it's doubly
it definitely
true.
happened.
There's actually 2 that actually plays with both the Gorn and the Federation. The Federation are telling him what to do with his ship, and the Gorn aren't letting him use his ship. Like he is literally left in a place where he has been told that he is not in control of his ship in this episode. So
not going to give it to you. So your oddly specific one.
As long as I get the specific one, we're fine.
No. So his oddly specific one was that there will be some sort of candy bar.
Yeah.
Which is
the Jolly Ranchers.
That works.
I mean, maybe.
I clearly saw Drippy Jolly Rancher.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a candy bar.
It wasn't
for
a
the
candy bar
Gorn,
at all.
but
Yeah.
no.
No.
It
Unless
wasn't.
the
You
people
both-
themselves were
you all
considered.
failed.
Yeah.
Someone at one point did say don't sugarcoat it. So I feel like that should possibly count.
No. That was Pelia. No. So the hegemony thing was a deliberate tell for the Star Trek fans because the Gorn hegemony. So like you have the Romulan Empire, the Klingon Empire, the Gorn hegemony has been
it's
thing,
it's a word
so-
specifically used in Star Trek for the Gorn.
for the Gorn.
Oh,
exactly.
okay. All right.
It's like there's I think it's the Zenkethi Alliance or something like that. But there's the Gorn hegemony has been a thing for a while. So yeah, it was a nod that this was going to be a Gorn episode.
Yeah,
so
I
couldn't
knew
say
that.
anything.
Well,
Wait,
I
you
mean,
didn't?
no, this being a Gorn episode was so obvious to me. I didn't even think to predict it. Like, obviously, we're dealing with the Gorn in the
obviously it
finale.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be bizarre if we
Yeah.
did that setup in episode 1 and then we didn't have
Just never saw Gorn.
Nope.
Yeah.
not mentioned till season 7. It's gone. Would be freaking awesome. I'd love that.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Well, with that, thank you for listening, everybody. It's time for the Commodore to depart.
Oh.
No, we'll see you in 2026,
I
Commodore
know, right?
Dicer.
Yeah, this is because you only joined the show. For those new podcast listeners who don't know, Commodicer only joins us for Strange New Worlds.
So, what do you guys doing Ahsoka next? Like, what's next on the?
And this is why he's only
Computer,
invited
beam
for
him
one
out.
moment.
Beam him to the Gorn ship immediately. This is why
I've been
we
waiting
don't
to
have
say
him.
that for 2 hours.
Amazing. That's incredible. Well, I know it's been a mixed bag on Strange New Worlds, but it's been incredible to have you on board.
Oh,
So
thank
your
you.
thoughts and input have been very, well, they've been present.
Thank you.
Ambassador, do you want to share like what we're doing next?
As if I fucking know.
So we're taking a 2-week shore leave break. So we're going to be returning for the season 4 premiere of Lower Decks. So we're going to be covering that off in the next season. We're going to have a 2-week break until then. So I don't think you'll be seeing anything in the podcast feed for the next 2 weeks. There won't be a live show for 2 weeks, but we will return with a live show and the season premiere of Lower Decks.
Yeah.
Season 4.
And if for some reason that changes, please watch social media. We have a Twitter account at Captain's Pod CS. The CS stands for CinemaSins. I know some of you guys don't actually know what CinemaSins is, and that's so fun. But you can watch updates there for Twitter, and you can join our Discord. That's discord.com/GG. What is it? I think it's /GG.
Yeah.
Let me just check real quick. It's discord.gg/CinemaSins. So join us on discord.gg/CinemaSins, and there is a Captain's Pod thread in there where you can meet other Captain's Pod fans
Captain's fodder.
and have updates. So if we do decide to release anything in the feed for the next couple of weeks, or if we decide to go live and do something completely off base, we will update there.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. Keep your emails coming in. And until then, I'm Captain Ian, and I'm out of here because I have a 1.5 day gestation period that's running out.
Its oxygen will soon reach critical levels for me.
And it's "You gonna backseat drive me, sir?" from me.
You wish. Live long and Podsper.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Okay, hey.
New bumper.
New bumper.
Am I insane, or do I have a long hair sticking straight out of the side of my head?
Yes, you do. Right angle. Right angle.
Where
just
is
there.
it? Like, I'm trying to, like, how am I oh, there.
There you go. It's forward. Yeah, it's on your eye.
Oh, I see. Well, why
Nope.
won't it?
Further back. Further back.
Where is that?
I wish we were recording the video.
And why is it sticking straight out? Oh, okay.
It's physics, you know.
Okay, I'll just do the whole show with my finger up against the side of my forehead.
I'll do the same, so you don't look weird.
It stayed. It stayed, Ian.
Shake your head.
Nope.
Give it a.
Halfway through the show, I'm gonna get an erect hair It's gonna be so
Boing.
embarrassing.
You're gonna have some. Did you make an erection pun with follicular?
No, I didn't make
No?
a pun there at all. Mm-mm.
No, I mean in the past. Have you?
Oh, I don't
Follicular.
believe I've made a hair-related erection pun before.
I'm sorry. I got here at a really interesting moment
Welcome
for
to
that
the show,
to be
Deneé.
stated. Thank you. Aaron, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Ian, this is for you too.
Oh, thank you for including me.
Aaron, I'm specifically asking you a question. Ian, you're also invited. So, Aaron, technically, I'm not specifically asking you a question.
Let me start that over again. Aaron, Ian, I'm going to tell you about something that happened today. I went to get a massage this morning,
Sure.
and I was referred by my chiropractor. So I thought a good thing to do would be to ask the therapist after my massage was over if he noticed anything specific,
Mm-hmm.
as I am on a health journey. So we get done with the massage, and we're walking, he's walking me back to like the little waiting area where the people wait
Vestibule?
for the therapist. The vestibule
Vestibule,
of relaxation. I asked the question, so did you notice anything, specific about my body and tension or anything that
Mm-hmm.
you feel like I should know about? And I don't remember how I worded it, but it was probably
Sure.
just about that
Yeah.
awkward. and he says, your body is in great shape for the shape that it's in.
That is the
That's
worst
insane.
possible answer ever.
Right?
Like, how do, like,
That
there's-
tells you nothing.
Not only does it tell you nothing, it makes you like super paranoid.
I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
I could sit here for a day
What are we-
and try to come up with a worse answer to that question and not have a worse answer.
I wasn't expecting a compliment. I don't need a compliment. I was asking for a professional opinion
Right.
about my my muscle tissue
Right.
that maybe can help unlock some mystery as to why I'm getting so tense or why I'm having migraines or if there was. And he says, your body is in great shape for the shape that it's in. And I'm like,
That's-
It's a car wreck, but it's expected to be a car wreck because it's been through a car wreck, is what he's saying. Like, you're a great age for the age that you are. What does that mean?
I have
What did
been
you just say to me?
I'm wondering if it's like one of those things that he picked up over the years that you just say. It's a meaningless thing you throw out because people ask a question you're uncomfortable answering. So, or maybe he read it on Instagram once and thought that's
means
clever. I
nothing.
don't know, but it doesn't. I have no.
So, okay. So you're saying there's a possibility he's making some sort of joke?
Or just like that offhanded, the sort of placate the person, just say something that they
Right,
can
like when somebody
interpret
says,
however
"How
they
are you
want.
doing?" and you say, "Don't have any excuse to complain," or something like that.
Yeah,
or,
just something
like-
nebulous.
Right.
But this sort of nebulous is like,
It's the for the shape that you're in part.
what does that mean?
That is offensive. For the shape that you're in, why comment on the shape that I'm in?
Well, especially because the first part
Wait.
is you're in good shape. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. First of all, who thought
Just
I was
like that.
asking you about my shape? Like who?
Yes.
I know. I was asking you about my muscle tissue, dude.
There are some awkward possibilities. One is he thought you were asking like, what do you think of my body? He was being awkward because he thought that's the question you were asking. Like after putting your hands all over me, how do you think
I
of
don't
my
know.
form?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't think that that's how my question was phrased, but you're right. It could have been interpreted
I'm just
the
trying
wrong
to
way.
figure out how you answer that question with that answer. Like
Your body is in great shape.
for the shape that
Comma.
it's in.
For the shape
the
that it's in. What do you mean for the shape that it's in? What shape are you saying it's in?
It reminds me of the time that I told the lady at Sonic after she poured her heart out to me about her life circumstances, and I decided to just like give her advice that I said, you just got to go live life and do stuff, which is incredibly useless information to tell someone.
Yes.
Yes, but at
That-
least it doesn't leave her paranoid that you think something's wrong with her. Like, this is what I'm saying. It's not just that it doesn't mean anything.
This is something that could have a ... and a dun at the end of it. This is something that could have an angelic overtone. It could go anywhere.
The exquisite crafting of that sentence to both say nothing and leave you in a state of paranoia is insane.
I know.
You said absolutely nothing and you also insulted me. How did you do that?
Well, I could take it as an insult or I could take it as a compliment.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's up to me to interpret for the shape that it's in to be whatever. Because
No, but
He-
it
he didn't-
assumes it assumes that he knows your body. It's for the shape that it's in. So there is some knowledge there about the shape that your body is in that he knows. So what's missing from this sentence is a considering, because if you say your body is in great shape considering the shape that it's in,
Well, that's even worse.
But that's the same. It's the same as for. He's just hidden it. He's hidden the considering with a for.
Is there a possibility that he remembers me when I was in my most svelte? So the first time he massaged me, it would have been right around my martial arts stage.
So do you literally think he's commenting on your physical appearance?
I think he said something mindless that he didn't want to have a. This is a person who has exactly 10 minutes to get me to the next room, return to his massage room, and get it ready for his next client. I think this is a statement that's meant to just placate and not invite further conversation. And it worked.
That didn't. No, it hasn't.
Yes, it did. I didn't want to talk to him anymore.
No, that's fair.
I would have immediately been like, what does that mean? I would not have let that go.
Hey, honey, how was dinner? You know what? It was a great dinner for the dinner it was.
That would be so insulting.
Right,
That would
that's
be.
what he
I
said
would
to
be
you.
bummed. He did. That's what he said. Should I give you guys a fish update too before the show starts?
Yeah, if you have it, let's go.
I assume there is no more updating the fish. I think we're onto the fish tank
No,
now.
the fish,
I hope.
the fish is still in the freezer,
Of
so
course,
that's
yes.
There we go,
technically
yeah.
But I did actually empty the tank, and it is sitting on the back porch with only a little bit of water in the rock area because I've got to scoop all the rocks out and then pour boiling hot bleach on it or something to clean. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then there's a box on
Do you
the.
have to boil bleach?
Yeah, you don't have to boil bleach.
I don't think that's
It does
I don't
the
think
thing.
that's the point
Yeah.
of bleach.
I don't think
Boiling
you do.
hot bleach.
Yeah,
It's
boiling hot
amazing.
bleach. Just really.
One thing I make sure to do before I apply my hand sanitizer is to boil it first.
Yeah. I like this one from Aaron who says, I'm calling it now. Pike goes to the Gorn ship to negotiate them back because he knows he can't die there. Wouldn't that be clever?
They haven't really done anything with that yet. With like
No.
Pike puts his life on the line because he knows his life isn't on the line.
Yeah, and I think it would break the show if he did that, because then he would always do it. I think they deliberately can't do that.
The rest of the show, he just waltzes in everywhere. He's just like, what's up, enemies? Come at me.
Scotty took total credit for the buffer trick in Relics, but did he actually get it from Murder Boy?
That's really interesting, because Scotty tries to save some of his crew members by putting them in the transporter buffer. And there's 4 of them altogether. No, there's 2 of them that he puts in the buffer, himself and someone else. And then 70 years later, the new Enterprise turns up and saves them. And Geordie says, that was a brilliant idea. I can't believe you did it. And Scotty was like, it was 50% brilliant. Because the other guy dies in the buffer, doesn't make it.
Maybe what he really meant was it was only 50% my idea. That's why he says that was 50% brilliant.
Interesting.
Oh, my
He
goodness.
can't take full credit for it.
Why is Pike so lost here? He surely has had a plan that failed miserably and suddenly at least once before. We're not talking about Captain Smith having never been on a sinking ship before here, right? This is regarding the very end, and that was a comment that a couple of people had, which is just not feeling like Flyboy said regarding Cliffhanger. I think the writers played up Pike's indecision too much. Ultimately, Pike is not leaving anyone behind, even if he has to retreat and regroup first.
He had to have to be continued face. That's all it comes down to. He had to have to be continued face.
However, Aaron, he did not have to be continued face because, and I quote Star Trek TNG, the season 3 cliffhanger, and I'm getting all arms wiggly, the season 3 cliffhanger, there is no indecision. Picard has been assimilated by the Borg. Riker has a weapon that can blow up the Borg ship, and it means killing his captain. There is no indecision. The camera pans around, and Riker just says, fire. That's the cliffhanger, because there is no indecision. He's just like, kill him. Let's do it, and then the credits roll. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's better.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's fun.
And that's what I thought this episode was going for, and that's what I was so disappointed with. Because there is no... You can have the internal debate. I don't want to leave my people behind. But you are leaving them behind. Right now, you are warping out of there. You're getting your thoughts together and then planning a rescue. Leaving doesn't mean you're abandoning
C-face. Resting TBC face.
Bye boy. Love this one. Someone on social media suggested a young Loxana Troy appear as a teenager in Strange New Worlds. I don't think you've got the ages quite right. That would make her 120. in TNG, which I don't think she is, but I would love to see a young version of Loxana Troy flirting with Pike. That would be beautiful.
So is please forgive my ignorance. Is she human?
Loxana?
No, she's a beta.
Fed.
She's like full on can read minds beta.
So do they live longer than humans?
I think they're comparable to humans.
okay.
It's not explicitly said. So yeah, maybe they do live to be 200. And in which case, poor Picard.
Yes.
Betazoids have a lifespan of 120 years. Nerd! Yep, they sure do.
When is that said on screen? Don't give me something that was in the books bullshit.
That's
'cause the
their
books don't count.
average? Because, I mean, a human, there have been humans to have lived 120 years.
What?
Yes. In fact, the oldest human right now, I think, is 123, something like that.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, it's up there. It's way up there.
122.
Is the current oldest living human?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I knew it was
That's
right around there.
awesome. That we know of.
She said,
Correct.
quote, I've waited 110 years to be famous. I count on taking advantage of it. And she said that at her 120th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And she went to live another 12
That's
years.
amazing. There was an Ed Apple,
Mm.
chief processing engineer on the Janus 6 mining colony in TOS Devil in the Dark. Maybe he was Doug's brother. And stretch. Yeah, that's a stretch, but hey, what if they're pulling out names like that? Good on them. Why not? Well done.
Name a guy just to kill him. Like, that's
Right?
so cruel.
Someday somebody's gonna make you wanna turn around and say goodbye. Till then, baby,
Man, ain't gonna make you cry.
don't you know, things will change. Things will go your way. Hold on
For one more day.
hold on.
One more day.
Things will go your way. Hold on for one more day.
What did I just walk into?
Oh, there it is. Oh, it's obnoxious.